Hey everyone, before we get into the video proper, I just wanted to warn you that this is supposed to be an encyclopedic collection of all the ultra small caravans that are suitable for family caravanning in 2021. So what I've tried to do in this video is, rather than the usual show vlogs, which of course we can't do this year because there's no show, the usual show vlogs would be popping from caravan to caravan to take everybody on tours of the new models. But this year I wanted to do something a little bit different, and that's to assemble this encyclopedic collection of things that might work that are ultra small. So I'll define a bit more about what that means in a minute. But before we get into the video, this is your warning to grab a drink, to grab some snacks for half time, possibly to take a hub break halfway through and then come back again. But enjoy the video, because I hope by pulling it all together in this way, at least if it's a long view, it's also a valuable view if you are thinking of this sort of thing, and hopefully will help with your shortlist. Anyway, let's get into the video. Everybody ready? Good. Then let's get going. Nearly forgot you guys. Hey everyone, a really warm welcome back. Well, if this was a normal year, the past few days would have seen everybody setting up at the NEC, all the manufacturers putting their wagons on display and their wares at the NEC show, ready for the camping, caravaning and motorhome show. Have I got that right? I always get those words the wrong way around. Anyway, the February NEC show. And I don't know about you, but I love the February show. I mean, October's the place where most of the new caravans and motorhomes and so on are released. But February has this, I guess, palpable sort of anticipation of great things to come. You know, we're over most of the worst of the weather, usually, although the beast from the east occurs a couple of times. But we're past all of that weather, and then there are tents on display, and there are camper vans on display, and it just has a more adventurous, outdoorsy feel to it, and I just love the February show. Anyway, we can't do that this year, so what I thought I'd do instead, as this channel is really about small family caravans, you know, how small can we go and still be just about comfortable, I thought what I'd do is a bit of a roundup of what the manufacturers seem to have on offer for this year, for 2021. So we've had ours for 4 years now, and if I were buying again, you know, what would I look at now? So thinking about the sort of things I was thinking about 4.5 years or so ago, when I was looking at what caravan we wanted. At the time, the kids were primary school. Yeah, the oldest one was coming up towards the upper stages of primary school. So when I was looking at that time, I wasn't looking for small children. I was expecting them to put on a growth spurt quite soon. And indeed, that is exactly what's happened. So when I was looking for ours, I was looking for realistically 4 adult size berths, or at least to be able to squash 4 people in for a short time, because of course once children get to that late primary, early secondary stage, they probably want to go outside in their own pop-up tent or in a little extension on an awning anyway, because they just need a little bit more space, and you feel freer to let them enjoy that freedom while we're out and about. Obviously that might restrict you a little bit in terms of weather, and it means you're always carrying extra stuff, extra tents and awnings and so on. But at least it means you can get away with a smaller caravan. So that's what I've got in mind. Let's have a look and see what's on offer around the about 6 meters, 6.5 meters total length. So right from the back to right at the front of the hitch, the shipping length. Let's see what's available around 6.5 meters, and ideally would sleep 4 at a push maybe, but would just about sleep 4. So let's see what's out there. So we'll go alphabetical order. We'll start with Adria, and hopefully I will have covered all the manufacturers that I can think of. If I've missed anybody out, if I miss your favourite manufacturer out, pop a comment below and tell everybody about what is so great about that particular caravan or something you've been looking at. So let's get into the video. Okay, so let's kick off by looking at Adria. And for this year, we seem to have the ranges of Alpina, Adora, Action, which is the little one, and Altea. And we'll look at the Alteas because you usually find the smaller ones in the cheaper end of the price ranges. And here we are, but as we can see here, 8.2 meters for the very biggest one. So the Air is the smallest, but that's still 7 meters front to back for the smallest one of these, which is the 2-berth Air. And then it goes up to the Tyne. I'm pretty sure the Tyne and the Dart and the other one, Avon, isn't it? Yeah. So I'm pretty sure they're all on the same body length. So those are 8.2 meters front to back. Yeah, 8.248. So, looks like a great caravan, but unfortunately, it looks like Adria has nothing to offer us except for this action, which we will actually come back and talk about later because that's an alternative to consider. Next, let's go and have a look at Bailey's. Now, Bailey, like Swift, have masses of options available, so layouts and luxury levels to suit everybody's pocket and everybody's family makeup. So for today though, we will come down and look at the Discovery range because those are the smallest ones that are designed to be compact and go anywhere sort of thing. So we'll have a quick look at those. There are 3 layouts available in the Discovery range, so a 2-berth, a 3-berth and a 4-berth at varying lengths. So D42, D43 and D44. And I've always thought that the 3-berth here was the coolest and most practical, but actually it's, in my opinion, it's missing a little bit of a trick. So we'll have a little quick look at that one and I'll say a bit more about what I think it's missing here, because this is a great super practical layout, double dinette, dinette area at the front, dinette at the back, very practical indeed. Let's have a little look around the outside. Not quite sure if that back seam being 2/3 off is good because it's on the golden mean, or annoying because it's 1/3 and 2/3 not right down the center. But anyway, it certainly does the funky thing. And the brilliant thing about these, of course, is the massively long A-frame, which means you can get a bike rack on there. And because there's no gas locker on the front, that's super practical. So you can use one of the cheaper fixed bike racks, so less moving parts, less things to go wrong, and get the bike sat nice and low so you keep the weight down. Obviously, if you do put bikes on the front, be very, very careful about what your nose weight is though, because bikes can weigh an absolute ton. And would also, if your car can take it, be a good idea to take this weight plate upgrade, because really the payload on these things is just standard. And if you're going to put bikes on the front, they do weigh an awful lot, so be very, very careful. So I have carried bikes on the front of ours, and I'll link to some of the videos I did about those above. And I had 2 setups, one where the bikes were on the back and one where they weren't, so I had to rearrange all the stuff inside to make sure I got a good nose weight on the front of the caravan, so we were nice and stable with whatever we were carrying. Now, as you can see here, this has a very nice shipping length, so 6.1 meters, which is super, and a very generous front single, and a reasonable rear double, so a little bit on the skinny side. But the trick I think that's missing with this D43 is if somehow Bailey could have designed some clever maybe like a sort of hammock bunk above the front or something like that. This would have been such a cool, fantastic, brilliant little compact thing for 4 to travel around in. I mean, it's already great as 3, but you know, if they could have just got that extra bunk in over the top somehow, this would have been super, super, super good. Reminds me, of course, of the double dinette layouts that were popular in the, I guess, the 80s, when we had either a sofa at the front or with a single dinette that popped up into a set of bunks. Our old Supreme had that, and you know, I was in the top bunk over the top of the front window, and then my sister had the bottom one underneath, so that was pretty cool. Anyway, I'm sure they could do something really clever with this. So that's where I think it's a missed trick, but you know, great little package in 6.3 and 3 berths, and we'll come back later and talk about how this might fit into a slightly alternative way of caravanning later on. Let's just have a quick look at the 4 and see what the length on that is and the bed sizes and so on. So this is a much more conventional 4-berth layout, French bed at the back, and then a couple of sofas at the front. Now I guess these are supposed to be folded into another double, but you know, I don't know about your kids, but mine haven't wanted to share for a very, very, very long time, so there will be no chance of getting them to share a double bed at the front. So payload not too bad, if you've paid for the upgrade on the plate. Let's have a little look at the lengths of those sofas anyway and see if they're long enough for them to use as singles. Yeah, so the whole thing is 7.1 meters, so it's a bit over what I was looking for at around 6.5 meters. Okay, so front singles, 1.65, so yeah, workable. Depending on how tall a family you are, you know, we're all pretty short, so that is workable up to, I guess, about 13-ish. Maybe slightly less if you're a tall family, maybe slightly more if you're a short family. But certainly just about workable for a good few years as singles, so possible, but out of the running because it's 7.1 meters as a caravan overall. Now I've had a quick look through the other ranges and they are all oversized for 4 berths, so it's just the Discoveries that will go into the pot of available options for small, tiny family caravans. So let's have a look at Coachman next, and I have a feeling that we're going to end up with the same conclusion as Adria. You know, Coachman builds some wonderful caravans, but they're certainly not on the small, lightweight end of things. They're heading much more for the luxury end. So let's have a little look anyway, just to double check, because a great layout could be front sofas and then a little dinette behind it, so like this 520 that's on show here. Now this one seems to be set up as a 3-berth, so it doesn't have a bunk above that single berth in the dinette, but let's have a look what the sizes are here. Alright, so very long front sofas, so long enough to use as singles, which is very practical, but the whole thing coming in at very fractionally short of 7 meters, so similar sort of problem. Workable if you're a 3, but because there's no bunk over the dinette there, not workable for a 4 realistically, and very close to that 7 meters, and anything else is way above it. So unfortunately no Coachmans available for us. This 520 VIP is even over 7 meters, so lovely caravans, but not going on the list for small family vans, that's for sure. Okay, now let's go and take a look at Elddis, and I have to admit, you see Elddis at the shows, but you don't see them about as much with such flashy social media as some of the other brands. But I think there's a little gem in here that might fit our description really well, and it's this little Explore 304. Now our friends have got one of these, and it was their first caravan, and I think it's been absolutely brilliant for them. Now they're a family of 3, so it suits them down to the ground, but let's have a little closer look at this one. So 304. Now it has very simplistic looks. I guess to my eye it looks a little bit old-fashioned, but horses for courses, you know, everybody has lots of different tastes, and some interiors and exteriors that people hate, others love. So as you can see here, it's got this L-shaped front lounge which looks really cozy, and then a little dinette in the back corner which converts into bunks. So let's have a look at these little pictures. There you go. See, it's very clever. And then the little bathroom just off on the right hand side. That top bunk looks ever so thin. I wish they'd pushed it out so it rests on the bathroom wall, and then it could be a really nice and spacious bunk. But as you can see, very bijou, but it looks like it fits everybody in. So, you know, if you had bigger children with you, you'd definitely want to use an awning with it. But in terms of being able to shelter everybody and sleep everybody comfortably, that would do. And look, it is just 5.5 meters shipping length. That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. How have we got the bed sizes here? So yeah, that L shape converts into a proper doubles bed, and the back single, look at that. That is as wide as a standard single. And the bunk above it, 56 centimeters, so that's quite poor. It's fractionally wider than in the Base Camp 4, which we'll get to in a minute, which is an absolute joke in terms of width of bunks. So 56, not very good at all, and I wonder what the weight limit is on it. If only they could have pushed it out to make a sort of wedge-shaped bunk, so it would rest on the door of that bathroom. But then the foot end could be as slim as it is now, so resting on the wardrobe, but the shoulder end could be nice and wide, so the same width as the one at the bottom, 895 millimeters. That would be absolutely brilliant, and it wouldn't require much innovation, just a bit more thought about actually how that piece folded up and what it rested on, and how all the structure was put together to be able to take the weight. But that is a brilliant little thing in a 5.5 meter package. Fantastic. External looks might not be for everybody. It's a bit simplistic, and you could argue a little bit old-fashioned. Perhaps a bit of jazzing up of some logos, and you can imagine it, couldn't you, with sort of darkened black tinted windows and a bit of cool silver graphics down the side. This would be absolutely fantastic. It's a lovely practical layout. And then you could always leave the double bed set up and then use the dinette area. Now, it's a bit of a squash to get 4 around there eating, clearly. But at least you've got the option of 2 dinettes if the weather's terrible and you want to eat inside. But yeah, I think that is absolutely brilliant. And it's a very good price as well. Yep, doing well so far. Now, there is another similar one based on, I think, the same shell, but that's a 2-berth. But in the rest of the list, I think everything else is up around 7 meters or over. So there's nothing else in terms of our list of 6 or 6.5 meters. But I did mention the Bailey Discovery 4 earlier, so I do want to give honourable mention to the Avant 454. Now, this thing is described as a 2-berth. So it's got this island bed at the back and another L-shaped lounge at the front. So you can easily see it being a 3-berth. So if you've got very old teenagers that mainly probably want to be outside in an awning extension or something, and you mainly holiday in fine weather, so that's fine, then you could see in an emergency, you could always put a blow-up mattress on the floor for a 4th one. So 1 up on the sofa, 1 on the floor, and then adults nice and cozy and secure and comfy in the back. So that is certainly worthy of consideration. Let's have a look at the technical specs. I think it's going to fall outside 6.5 meters, but as I said, I did mention the Discovery 4. So let's have a look at this one as well. Yeah, so look, that's shorter than the Discovery 4. So this is 6.9 meters. Yeah, 30 centimeters less, although you don't get that enormous A-frame in terms of putting bikes on the front. You just get a standard one. So you couldn't put any bikes on there. I have a nasty feeling that Elddis might be one of the manufacturers that sells your bike rack for the back, and all the physics I've done suggests that is not a good idea. Anyway, I'll link, as I said, I'll link to the bike videos that I've done before, and you can have a look at those, and if you're a physicist, come to your own conclusions. And this same layout's available in a couple of the different ranges, so you can get the same layout in the casita as well, depending on the finish that you want and the level of luxury. So we've got one excellent candidate for our 6.5 meters category of small family vans. In fact, it's only 5.5 meters, so that is absolutely brilliant. But then the rest of the range is technically over what we're looking for, although honourable mentions to this particular layout. Okay, now let's talk Eriba. And Eriba has to be the king or the queen, well, the monarch of small caravans. So we have a number of different ranges here, and I'm going to use the Adventure Leisure dealership's website because they display them all together, which is very handy indeed. So in the touring range, you've got lots and lots of choice in 3 berths. So you've got Familiars, which are the small ones, Tritons, which are the middle-sized ones, and Trolls, which are the big ones. Now, when I say big, I mean 5.8 meters in total. So these things are absolutely brilliant, and there's loads and loads of choice in terms of 3 berths. Technically, you can make a 4th berth in lots of the Tritons and all of the Trolls, because you can buy a hammock-type bunk, which goes over the front dinette. Now, those do go full length across from one side to the other. I've not seen one in real life, but they do seem to get very good rave reviews amongst the various Eriba groups, forums, and so on. I don't know that I would put a teenage-sized child into one of those. I think that might be a bit of a squash, but certainly for smaller ones, that's viable. Now, if you want fixed beds, the only option is the Troll 550, which has a dinette conversion at the front, and that then gives you 2 doubles. But neither of those are particularly what we're looking for. So here I want to pick out the Feeling range. So Eriba Feeling, of course, I am entirely biased, given that we own a 425 Feeling. So this is what we own, this particular model. So this is much more of a conventional white box type caravan, but has a very special little feature. And as you know, ours has a pop-top roof on it. So these are the various layouts that are available, and we'll have a look at some of the data. So the 425, which is the one we've got, is 607, so 6 meters and 7 centimeters long, and has a fixed transverse at the back. So that's a full width double 135 by about 2 meters. And then it's got a dinette at the front, which is 135 at one side of that and a meter at the other side. So, you know, technically that would probably be described as a French bed. I guess a sort of French bed when it's folded down. And I guess a lot of people would say that was a double because it's 135 at one end and 1 meter at the other end. So it's just missing a chunk from one end. But Eriba stick with the definition of it being a single bed. And of course, the very, very special indeed thing about ours is it's got an upstairs. So up in the pop-top roof, we've got a 150 centimeter wide bed. So that's a full king size width. And of course, both boys go up there. So it gives us 2 adults downstairs in the double, 2 full-size spaces upstairs. Now, as you've probably seen in one of my previous videos, I've split ours into side-by-side bunks. So they've got a little sort of pod space each for privacy up there. And then the front dinette. So technically, this is a 5-berth. Although with 4 of us in and the boys getting increasingly large, it does feel a bit squashed sometimes. Anyway, and then there's the 470 and the 442, depending on if you want totally separate single beds or if you want just a enormous, massive longitudinal double in the rear. So the 442 is exactly the same layout as ours, just with the beds as longitudinal rather than transverse. And any of these 3 can come with that pop-up roof, which has the 2 sleeping spaces upstairs. So the 150 centimeter wide full king size. So at the end of the video, I'll draw a comparison and pick out all the models that I think are suitable as small family caravans around the 6.5 meter size. And one thing I feel duty bound to point out as the owner of one of these Eriba Feelings is that if you're comparing these to UK manufacturers' vans, then there are some slight differences. So forgetting about the door on the other side, which I'll mention briefly later, but you need to be very careful when you're looking at the specification list, because continental manufactured vans don't always come with everything standard built in if you're specifying from new, as would a UK manufactured van. So for example, on some manufacturers, the whole 12-volt system is a separate option. It certainly was on ours, and things like spare wheels are an option, carpets are optional, fly screens are optional, all sorts of things are optional extras. So when you look at it first, it might have some enormous payload like 500 kilos, and indeed they do have very large payloads, but also you need to add in all your options. And for example, on price lists like this, you can see that each of the options are listed not just with the price but also with a weight on it. So make sure you're including absolutely everything you want when you're comparing prices and weights and so on. Now, for me, this was really good because it meant we weren't paying for things we didn't want. So we didn't want a microwave, and we didn't want a TV. We didn't even want an oven, actually. So for me, it was brilliant to be able to choose things as options. But just bear that in mind to make sure you're making a fair comparison on price and weight and payload when it comes to it. So the good news here is that all 3 of these Eriba Feeling models will fit into our comparison of at least 4-berth caravans that are 6 or 6.5 meters, given that one is just over 6, one is 647 and one is 669. So perfect. And either have 3 berths with the standard roof or 5 berths with that extra tall sleeping roof on the top. So more things to add to our list of possibilities. Now, a brand of caravans I really enjoyed looking around at last year's February show was the Knaus range. And they've got a number of things. So they've got this Sport and Fun, which realistically is a good 2-berth, although you could get 3 in. But they've also got this Desio and the Travellino. Now the Travellino is super lightweight and 2-berth, I think. And the Desio can go up to 4 berths, but is designed as more of a sort of specialist transportation thing, so you can get motorbikes in there and all sorts. So go to check those out. But for now I want to look at this Sport model, because there was a 400 which came in at just 6 meters long and was available in all sorts of different configurations. So let's see if we can find that on their website. I can't find it on the dealership here, so let's go to Knaus themselves. Alright, this is what we want, the 400s, and the 400 LK is the one that has a dinette at the rear that actually has a bunk that folds out over the top of it. So the same sort of idea that we saw in the Elddis earlier, but this time directly at the back rather than at the side. And then a normal size dinette at the front that turns into a full size, I think, a 135. I don't think it's a 150 double bed. So double bed at the front, pair of bunks at the back. Let's go and have a look around the 360. Let's see if I can make that a bit bigger for you. There we go, that's better. So dinette at the back, so double dinette, as in space for one person on each side, bunk at the top here. Now the only downside is I see a sticker there that says maximum 60 kilos. I mean, 60 kilos is a good weight. That's a fair old chunk of child that could go up there. I'll see if I can find the width of the bunk and then pop that in the captions while this film is showing. So bunks at the back here, curtain across, small side washroom and a dinette at the front. And I think this is the silver edition, and it was really nice in here when I went in last February. And as you can see in the kitchen, there's actually a reasonable amount of worktop there. So although you haven't got much room at the side, there's a lot of space in front of the hob that you can use as sort of prep space. Not so much space to leave a toaster or a kettle or something out continuously, but plenty of space for chopping and all that sort of jazz. And lovely modern colours in here. And I really like the ambience in here. When I came in about a year ago today, I guess. Now there's also other models. So there's the 400 QD. This has got a fixed double at the front and then a side dinette. Now that only converts to another bed. I guess if you had 2 small ones, they wouldn't mind sharing that together. But again, on the body length of 599 centimeters, and then also a 420, which is slightly longer at 643 centimeters. So same sort of layout, still only 3 berths because there isn't a bunk above that dinette, but it is a bigger and longer dinette, and I guess a wider bed on that one. So plenty of options in terms of small possibilities from Knaus. And there are quite a few dealerships for these in the UK these days. So your chances of being near one are not as rare as they used to be, which is good news. Okay, so now let's head over to the Swift website and see what they've got on offer. Now, I know the Alpine 2 in the Sprite model range is the smallest, so let's see what the equivalents are on offer. So we can go for a Challenger 530 if we want to go up to 7 meters, but we're trying to keep this around 6.5, so micro family caravans. Let's see what else it offers us. That's equivalent to the Alpine 4. Yeah, okay, they're all way over, aren't they? So let's go and have a look at the Alpine 4 in a bit more depth, and then of course we will get to the inevitable base camp in a minute, but let's look what's in the more conventional ranges first. Alright, so right down at the diddy end, the Sprite Alpine 2 and the Alpine 4. Let's see this information for the Alpine 4. So this claims to be a 4-berth, but of course it's made up with 2 doubles, and the front double being quite narrow. So realistically, and the way we've been classifying all the things we've looked at so far, this is probably a 3-berth in terms of longevity of lasting for kids as they get bigger. Sure, you get 2 little ones in the front there together, but not 2 big ones, that is for sure. Now let's just have a quick look at this 530. So it is up on the 7 meter range. But as we mentioned the Discovery 4 earlier, it's only fair that we have a quick look at this one as well. But 7 meters, but you can get a really good sized double by folding up the front there, and then you've got a pair of bunks behind. So this is a good sensible layout, which gives a very reasonable bathroom at the back. Let's see, have a look at the size of the bunks. Okay, so a little bit skinny. Let's see if we can find the weight limits on them. Yeah, nothing there. What I really want is a technical PDF to download. Let's see if there's one down at the bottom. Anything in here? No, just a great big list of stuff. Come on, I just want a brochure. Oh, there we go. That's what we need. Technical booklet. Okay. Oh, look, a COVID safe bubble. Somebody smart's been doing the images for this year. Yeah, so look, that Alpine 4 is not realistically going to work, is it? In terms of full size, slightly older children would work fine with tiny ones. Not so much with bigger ones. Let's scroll down and have a look at the Challenger 530. So it is slightly outside our regime, but let's have a look while we're here anyway. So there we are, bunk sizes. What it doesn't give us, oh, this is so annoying, is weight limits on these things. But I suspect that that sort of width anyway for the top one, then somebody would probably exceed the width and wouldn't be comfortable in it after they were, I don't know, 13, 14, something like that anyway. Okay, let's get across and have a look at the base camp. Alright, now the base camp. Pretty funky looking, although I still haven't decided if I like that gas locker. To me it looks a bit weird, but anyway. Everybody has different tastes, that's what makes life interesting, right? I do really like the way they've used the great slabs of anthracite plastic around to emphasize bumpers and things like that. That looks great. So let's see if we can get some data on these ones and see what the Basecamp 4 has to offer us. Let's jump on the configuration tool and I bet we'll have more luck there. So Basecamp 4 is the one we want to check out. £20,700 starting price, so a fair old chunk of cash. What I'd like is some data. Let's see what the options are. Go down through the pictures a bit. Okay, so let's go through the configuration and see if that tells me anything useful. So ATC is an extra, the specialist air beam, sleeping bags, secure wheel locks, graphics, Thatcham alarms and so on, all as added extras. Okay, so look down the pictures. I think you've probably seen quite a lot of these already. Let's see if we can find any technical information though. That would be useful to know. So we want to know widths of bunks, and we also want to know the weight limits on them. Because when I looked around these last year in the show, I'm sure the leaflet there said something a bit silly like 45 kilos on the top bunk. But maybe it's been upgraded since then, because I'm sure I saw recently it said something like 70 or 77, which is a very good weight allowance. Although they are incredibly skinny if they're the same as they were last year. They were 51 centimeters wide. Yeah, okay, nothing useful in here. What I will do is double check the bunk widths and put them in a caption below, and then you can see what they are. Now the one thing that worries me slightly about the Basecamp is the payload is not very good at all. Actually, if I've worked it out properly, it has an MIRO, so a massive running order of 1,050 kilos, and a maximum technically permissible laden mass, so that's the maximum weight it can be, of 1,186 kilos. And according to me, the difference between those two, which gives you your payload, is 136 kilograms. And I've scanned around this website quite a lot, and I can't see any information on upgrading that. And 136 kilos on something that's designed to take bikes inside and so on is quite poor for what it's designed to do, if you can't get the weight plate upgraded. Now, understandably, they're trying to keep it lightweight so that it doesn't need such a big tow car to tow it with, and to be able to keep it under the 3.5 tons of lots of younger folks' driving licenses. So that's entirely laudable. But if you're going to load bikes inside, you have to be aware that you don't have that much payload. You know, it's perfectly normal payload as far as caravans go, but if you're intending to load bikes inside and you've already had a motor mover put on and some of the optional extras, then obviously all of that will be cutting into your payload allowance, so do be very careful indeed. The other thing I've noticed with these things is obviously all the seats fold up, which makes for a fantastically flexible space, but does make life a little bit trickier in terms of where do you store, for example, your bedding during the day. So is the floor clean enough to just roll it up and put it underneath the seats? And do you mind that? If not, then, you know, great, wonderful to have the flexible space, but just don't expect everything to be hidden away as if you would in perhaps a more of a conventional design. Anyway, good option there. If you're prepared to put up with the very, very skinny bunks, I mean, to my eye, then they wouldn't fit very old children at all. The weight limit seems good now at 77 kilograms, but in terms of the actual size of the bunk, I mean, it's barely 50 centimeters wide, and so I think it would be incredibly claustrophobic. It's a shame they couldn't make those just a little bit wider, because I think they've got the space there just by the door, and given that they'd be folded down most of the day anyway, it's just at night time, then I think that's perfectly doable. But anyway, that's the design they've gone for. Now, I know this is supposed to be a video on 4-berth family caravans, but you know, I've mentioned a few 3s already, and I can't possibly not mention the uber cool Tab. And the Tab 400 is indeed a possibility if there are 3 of you. So this has a fixed double at the back. There's only one possible layout on a Tab 400. Fixed double at the back, and then a small dinette area at the front. Now, there's no bunk option here, so clearly that can only possibly be a single bed at the front. But how can I possibly do a video without mentioning this thing? So there's just a few of you, just 3 of you, that might be a possibility. Now, another pop-top caravan manufacturer is the Trigano Silver range, and there are 4 different layouts of these things, some of which may be a possibility. Now, these are pop-tops, but they're hard-sided pop-tops, so they're fully insulated. Not that any Eriba owners usually complain about having fabric sides, but anyway, these things are fully insulated, and you can even get them automatically extending. So just press a button and your roof pops up. So let's have a look at one of these layouts. So this is the 430CP, so this is a rear fixed double and then a side dinette. So good for a 3-berth. I think they claim it as a 4-berth, but realistically that double it folds out to in the centre isn't realistically a double at all. I think it's only about 1 metre wide. So perfect for a single, ludicrous as a double really. But there is this LJ model. So this is a dinette at the back, so this is quite a wide one on one side and single on the other, and then 2 single beds at the front. So potentially, you know, you could use this as kids in the singles and adults squeezed into the double at the back. So good for a family with older children, where the children might want to be outside all of the time, but at least you have the possibility of all 4 of you sleeping inside if you're just stopping, say, for one night somewhere on the way, or if the weather turns absolutely disastrous, you know, just about enough room for everybody inside if the adults don't mind squashing up at the end here. So I think that's a possibility, though obviously comes with a few downsides. So next off, let's have a look at Weinsberg, and these things caught my eye last year at the show as well, and the Caravan is the model that we're interested in because the rest of the range is huge, heavy, great big caravans, but this one, unsurprisingly, is rather like the Knaus Silver Sport Special Edition. It's made by the same group after all, the Knaus Tabak group, of which Weinsberg is a part. So as you can see, you can get a 390 QD, which is front fixed double and rear dinette. So really that's a sort of 3-berth, because I don't think there's a bunk above that little rear dinette. But it's the 400 LK which is of interest here, because at the NEC show last year this was set up as a front dinette, and then in the rear you can specify 2 or even 3 bunks. So theoretically this is a 5-berth caravan, all in a 6-metre shipping length and a 4.3-metre body, so same sort of layout as ours. So this is phenomenal, and the thing that really impressed me actually when I saw these first was the size of the bunks. So the bunks are something like 77-80 centimetres wide, which is very nearly a full width single, and they have really good weight limits on them. So if it's a fixed bunk, I think it's something like 75 kilos, and 75 kilos is quite a lot of adults actually. So certainly good even on the top bunk for all but the strongest rugby playing teenagers, that's for sure. So this tiny little caravan can last all the way from when their kids are tiny all the way up through until they're full grown and too old or don't want to come with you anymore, which is brilliant. And I think again, like the Eribas, these things have a long list of options. So if you're factory ordering, you can order all sorts of options, so depending on how many bunks you want at the back, or you can specify, like in the Silver Sport Special, you can have a little dinette there that folds down into a bunk and then a bunk over the top. So infinite possibilities that you can choose to suit your lifestyle, but only of course if you're specifying from new. If it's direct from the dealership, then it's the dealership that's done the order. But like the Eribas as well, you've got choice of 3 or 4 different fabrics, 3 or 4 no cost options, you just choose the colour you prefer, and then a couple of usually upgraded fabric options, so slightly better fabric, and a couple of different colours there for 100, 200 extra pounds, something like that. So infinitely flexible. Anyway, let's jump on the configurator and we'll have a look at that. We'll go through in detail what the various options are, and you can see. Okay, so here we are in the Weinsberg configuration tool. So there is a caravan, which is a wraparound, a great big U-shaped wraparound seating area at the rear, and then I think you can also specify a drop-down bed, so the sort of thing you get in a motorhome for that one, which in theory means you can sleep 2 on the bottom and 2 on the top in a sort of double bunk bed arrangement, but we won't look at that one. We'll look at the Caravan UK, and 2 layouts, as I said, 390 QD, which is really a 3-berth. It says 4 because that rear dinette folds down into a double, but realistically it's a 3, especially if you've got older children. So let's go through and we'll specify a 400 LK, and we see what we get. Now we're actually being shown a picture of the QD here, but let's not worry about that. So this is a front double dinette that folds down into a proper full-size double bed at the front, and then at the back I believe we can specify whether we want a seating area dinette with a bunk over or fixed bunks, and if we have fixed bunks we can have 2 or 3. So let's have a look at the options. So lots of things built in here, ATC if we want it, and remember that famous payload increase. So the same as you can on Eribas, you can specify a stronger chassis. Now on this one you can have a stronger chassis but a lower plated weight, or you can have the full weight of the upgraded chassis, depending on what your car needs and legally what you need for your license as well as your car. So do check those things out. Now also watch out here, there is a spare wheel included, but you do have to, if you want it in the gas locker, you need to specify that you want the holder for that. Now here we can say exactly what we want where, so which doors we want for access. So for example, if we have a bunk at the back, we can have a huge garage door, so you can flip the bunk up and slide bikes in from the side, which is incredibly practical. So that's brilliant. Or we can have hatches to access all the storage, and I find those things incredibly helpful. I mean, obviously it's another hole in the wall, so it's a potential leak point, but I've never had any problems with ours, and being able to access stuff from the outside is so much easier than having to drag it all the way through the caravan, especially for a small caravan like this, which is quite bijou inside, so it's difficult to move stuff around. Alright, now look, here's where we specify the sort of bunk arrangements we want. So whether we want 2 or 3, whether we want them fixed, or whether we want a seating group there. And if we specify the seating group, then our garage door has to go. So we have to make a decision there, fixed bunks and a garage door or a seating area. And then again we get the upholstery options, so some no cost options and then some cost options. So this is great, you know, if you don't happen to like the colour that it comes in. So when I toured around one of these last year, I found the yellow a little bit icky. Some people will love it, I'm sure. It just wasn't for me. So it's great that you have all these options, and that changes the whole feel of the thing, which is absolutely wonderful. Carpets included this time, which is unusual usually for a continental van. But this is a UK model, so as you can see, assuming the graphic is correct, then the door is on the UK side as well. So they've specifically thought about all this stuff in terms of where we take these things. Of course, if you spend a lot of time on the continent, then you're better off having the door on the right hand side, even if your tow car has its driving wheel on the right hand side as well. So we can specify different types of heating. Now watch out here, so this is electric only heating, so this is the Truma Therme, which is mains powered only, and we have one of those in our folding camper. Works perfectly well, but it doesn't give you much flexibility, obviously, because it keeps you tied down to hook up, whereas if you specify the ultra heats, then that gives you the gas option as well, and also a larger boiler. Also specify air conditioning and underfloor heating. I mean, underfloor heating, that's phenomenal. So you can have something nice and quiet, keeping the whole thing warm all day. Now, I've got various socket package upgrades here. We decided not to go for ours because we thought we'd live with what we had as standard and then decide where we actually needed the extra sockets, because nobody could tell me at the time where the new ones were going to go. So we fitted ours very easily. I'll do a video on that separately. And USBs are easy to fit, but if you're not at all competent or you don't know an electrician who can do that for you, then always worth doing the upgrade there or getting the dealership to fit them for you, of course. So lots and lots of accessories, but look at this price. £16,871, including the VAT. That is phenomenal. That is an amazing price. Yes, it's a small caravan, but the thing I was so impressed with the build quality on these, and the Knauses obviously, when I saw them at the NEC, and I think that's a similar experience to what we've had with our Eriba. So we had a couple of tiny bits of flapping trim, and you know I've had all the trouble with the pop top roof that I've covered in separate videos, but the build quality is phenomenal. And the build quality really seems to go into the road and the running gear. So for example, on ours, and I know on the Knaus, and I'm pretty sure on this Weinsberg as well, they come as standard with shock absorbers, even though this is, you know, the lowest end of the things that they sell. So they come as standard with shock absorbers. They also come with those new AAA adjusting brakes. We've got those on ours, and they are absolutely phenomenal. I mean, that ours tows like an absolute dream. Sure, the weight is quite low because the chassis is lower than normal, but I've never had any tugging off of the back, for example, when the brakes have been kicking in at the wrong time. So those AAA brakes are amazing, you know, much smoother than anything that we've towed before. And this is coming in at probably about 10 grand, realistically, less than an Eriba Feeling, because you don't have that upstairs space. Now, it's a different way of living, of course. You've got everybody in a very confined space, so that will bring its own challenges, and one day I'll get around to doing a video of the pros and cons of trying to live in such a tiny space altogether. In the meantime, let's see if we can find some pictures of this thing and see if we can find a 360 tour, so you get a better idea of what it actually looks like. So as I said, exactly the same sort of layout as the Knaus Silver. This has a much woodier look, so you know, more woody flooring and more wooden finishes on the cabinetry and so on. So some people will prefer that because it has a much warmer look than the ultra modern dark wood mixed with white that the Silver Sport has, and some people will prefer the modernness of the Silver Sport. So you know, they're similar in price. I think the Silver Sport's a couple of grand more, but effectively the same sort of caravan realistically. If I remember correctly, when I saw them at the NEC, the Weinsberg had dimpled sides, which will put a lot of people off, and I'm not that keen on them, I have to say. And the Silver Sport had smooth, but I'm not sure if that's the case for the 2021 models or this UK model, so you have to check them out. But as I said, thankfully there are more and more dealerships offering these things. around the UK, and I think these are an absolute bargain. These are really, really well made. You know, they've got fantastic bunk spaces that can last, so it's a very sustainable option. It's not as if you have to change your caravan every few years if you don't want to. You know, this will serve all the way through until you're ready to do a sort of empty nester type swap. So I think these are absolutely brilliant. Okay, so let's try and draw this all together, and we'll look at the different models by the number of berths they have. I think that's the most sensible way of doing it. Okay, so let's just have a quick mention of these 3 berths. I started off the video with the whole point of drawing together 4-berth micro-family caravans, but I want to give honourable mention to these things because there's a good variety of things that you can get that are 3-berth. And if your children are getting slightly older and will probably want their own space out in the awning or in a pop-up tent of their own, you might be better off going for a smaller caravan that could sleep for just about in an emergency, but that most of the time provides comfortable living for 2 or 3. And so there's plenty of variety here in terms of conventional sizes and shapes as well as smaller, shorter ones. So lots of models to consider within the 3 berths. Now, this was the main purpose of the video, proper 4-berth super compact family caravans. And believe it or not, there is actually a choice out there. If you want something that has a body length basically about the same sort of size as a family SUV or an estate car. So pretty easy to park at home, assuming you have a small to medium driveway. So obviously there are pros and cons of caravans this small and trying to live with them compared to big conventional ones, but that's a whole other video and I'll try and cover it another day. On the back of 4 years of experience of travelling in our own micro small family caravan, I thought it might be helpful if today I gave my opinion on the strengths and weaknesses as I perceive them for each of these models. Now, of course, you may well have a completely different opinion, and we live in a very boring world indeed if we all agreed about everything, but we can at least share different opinions respectfully, and so if you own one of these things or you've looked closely at any of them, then please do pop a comment below and let's have a nice positive discussion about it. Alright, so let's pick each of the models in turn, and I'll say based on our 4 years in a micro caravan what I think would work well and not so well if you were, say, 2 adults and 2 children. So first off, let's start top left corner with the Elddis Explore 304. So I really like the super cute inside of this caravan. I think the U-shaped lounge works really well. It might be a bit of a squash with 4, but it has a really nice sort of feel about it. And the dinette also seats 2 fine, but you'd struggle to get 4 around there. The other thing that worried me about this one was the size of that top bunk. So it seemed incredibly skinny and didn't have much of a weight limit at all about it. So that could be a problem if you've got bigger children. But it comes in an incredibly small package, so 5.5 meters, and is super lightweight, so it's towable with a very, very wide range of cars. And if I've read all the potential plate upgrades properly, you can get a decent payload of 214 kilos. That's good because not necessarily that you want to load it heavily, but at least it means you're more likely to be safe because then as long as you don't overload and take absolutely everything you want to take with you, then you've got a little bit more weight limit to play with. All right, let's pick up various Eriba trolls next. Now, these things are super retro, you know, super cool, super funky. I think, to be frank though, to get 4 berths in there is going to be a bit of a stretch. On the plus side for these models, you can get them with very long rear sofas, so it's much easier to seat more people if you've got both dinettes at the front and the back set up during the day in dinette mode, so plenty of seating area. To get a 4th person in though, either you've got to go for one of the options with the double bed at the front, which means sharing, so that's not really practical for older children, or you've got to use one of the optional bunks that clip in and hang above the front dinette, so you've got a bunk on the bottom and then a bunk on the top. And although they're a reasonable width and a reasonable size, they don't have a huge weight limit, so that probably wouldn't last until the kids are old enough not to come with you, so you'd have to come up with a separate option for that one. Now, something that really impressed me was the Knaus Sport, particularly the silver special edition has a really nice ambiance inside. I'll put a link if I haven't done it already, to our video from the NEC last year. I think that was in part 2 of the Small Family Caravan series, and you can have a good look around there with us. It was a little bit dark, but it had a really great modern interior and felt really, really well built, actually. And the same for this Knaus and the Weinsberg, which of course come from the same company, and the Eriba that we own. You know, all of them seem to be built on really solid running gear. All come with shock absorbers as standard, even though it's the cheapest range and the smallest range that those companies do. And I think all 3 of them actually come with AAA automatically adjusting brakes on them, which means it's incredibly smooth to tow. Our Eriba certainly is. You don't get any of that jerking sensation because the brakes are continuously adjusting themselves to give you optimum performance. So really like the Knaus Sport. So I had a great layout in terms of the double dinette option, and lots of different options if you're specifying from new in terms of making it fit you, all in a small package, so 6 meters in total. And of course they have very long A-frames, so the Eribas, the Weinsbergs and the Knaus have the traditional Continental A-frame, which is very long indeed, so plenty of space to get a bike rack on the front, so you can get probably 2, possibly 3 on there, but you do need to be very, very careful of your nose weight, obviously, as I've said in previous videos. So the positives around the Knaus Sport, apart from the ambience itself, and it did feel very well made, are that the bunks seem a very nice width indeed and had a decent payload on. I think if it's a pop-up bunk in either this Knaus version or the Weinsberg version of the same thing, so both the 400 LKs, if it's a fold-up, fold-down bunk, then I think you have a weight limit of 60 kilos on, which is a reasonable sized child. It's not necessarily a full adult, which the size could take, but if it's a fixed bunk, then I'm pretty sure it goes up to 75 kilos or more, which is fantastic. So the Weinsberg, exactly the same sort of comments as for the Knaus Sport, because it's basically just a rebrand of exactly the same caravan. The Weinsberg comes out cheaper. The fittings are and the woods used are possibly slightly lower spec. And the sidewalls, when I saw it last, were dimpled, which a lot of folks may not like. But do check for this 2021 model. I haven't been able to determine either for the Silver Special or for the Weinsberg whether they're dimpled walls or smooth walls. The other benefit, of course, of both of these is that if your tow car and your license can take it, then you can upgrade the chassis to a much stronger chassis, and that gives you a huge payload. I made some comments earlier about being careful around options, because options add weight, obviously. But you can get a really phenomenal payload on these things, which is great if you're going to put bikes on the front, especially because bikes can weigh an awful lot indeed. Of course, Swift came out with the Basecamp 4 at approximately this time last year. I think it was launched at the February show. So this probably wins the funkiest, modernist, sportiest looking caravan award. The things that concern me slightly about the Basecamp are the width of those bunks and the fact that there's a whole set of cupboards above the top bunk in the back of the Basecamp 4. So realistically at 56 centimetres, then your child is very likely to be bashing their head and feeling absolutely claustrophobic up there way before they're old enough not to come with you. So that should probably be borne in mind in terms of the longevity of the thing if you compare it to something like the Weinsberg or the Knauses. On the plus side, of course, it's an incredibly flexible space. All the chairs will fold up and have just a big open space. Of course, that means on the downside that the space is incredibly flexible. So if you've got lots of things like bedding and duvelets and that sort of stuff rolled up, you've got to put them somewhere, and there's not so much locker storage space in terms of folding them away, so you'd have to roll them and possibly put them in a bag and protect them, just put them under the seats during the day. Okay, and last off, let's talk about the Eriba Feeling. And of course, I'm entirely biased being the owner of one of these things. I'm not sure if that's biased in a good way or a bad way. I'll talk, you listen, and then drop me a comment below to tell me which way you think it goes. So, for me, the huge benefit of this particular layout being that you can have beds for all people available at all times and still have a dinette available as well. So if you've got the pop-up roof bed option, so the big tall roof instead of just the normal ordinary pop top, then you've got 150 centimeters of bed up there, so one king size, or as we've done with ours, we split it into 2 singles. So you've got that available, and the bed base pushes up and pushes down, so during the day you can have it up and have a phenomenal amount of headroom downstairs, or if you're short like me, you can keep it down all the time and be perfectly comfortable. So that of course brings us to one downside. If you are a tall family, you might feel quite constricted in terms of the head height if you've got that bed down during the day. If you've got it up, of course you've got cavernous roof space up there, you know, 2.5, 2.7 meters, something like that. Now, the other thing that I felt touring around all of these various models last year compared to ours was that ours is 2.17 meters wide, including all the mud flaps and all the rest of it. So internally it's 2 meters from wall to wall. And that actually feels much thinner than a lot of the other ones. So for example, the base camp feels much more spacious, and that's partly, I think, a facet of it being much taller, so a taller ceiling makes it feel more spacious anyway. But also the base camp is 2.28 meters wide according to the specs. So that means that if I were towing a base camp, I wouldn't have been able to do this in Cornwall a couple of summers ago, because we literally had 5 centimeters between us and that coachman coming up the hill the other way. Neither of us, of course, saw each other because the hill was so long. We both had to come round bends, and it was too late by the time we saw each other. Anyway, but the point being, if I'd have been towing a base camp, we would have been in trouble, because there's no way we would have squeezed past each other. I had the feeling just nipping past the hedge on the left-hand side, and with 5 centimeters between us and the coachman on the right hand side, it was a very tight squeeze indeed. But in the feelings, I think you really feel that lack of width, and I think that's accentuated by the roof being lower. It feels a lot more spacious when the bed is up during the day. And of course that brings another downside, that the whole thing can feel a little dark, because you've got one roof light that's above the bed area, but then you've got the bed blocking most of the space where you would have a roof light. Now, if you have the ordinary pop top, you can have a stargazer roof light put in there, and that is absolutely phenomenal and sheds huge amount of lights into the vehicle itself, which makes it feel completely different in here. So I think it does feel a little claustrophobic because of the lack of light. So that would be a downside, but the upside, of course, is you've got all these beds available, and that's even before you have to think about converting the dinette. So you don't have to bother packing up bedding during the day. You can just leave it on the beds, and the top bed can be pushed up to give you a huge amount of space. So in summary, lots of different options to suit lots of different people, be that the look, the layout, or indeed the budget. Because the caravans I featured here go right the way from about £15,000 up to 26,000 for some of the biggest and best equipped Eriba Feelings that are in this list. All right, well done. You've made it to the end. Let's have a bit of fun. If you've made it this far, type the word banana in the comments and let's see who's watched all the way to the end. This could be quite fun. So I hope bringing all the models together that might be suitable in terms of really compact caravans for family caravanning was helpful. I hope you enjoyed watching the summary. I guess my one piece of advice, having been doing this for 4 years, is not just to think about the model in terms of how you want to caravan, the sort of facilities you want and how you'd intend to use it, but also try and think a little bit outside the box. So if you're looking for a small family caravan, it makes sense to also compare with things like folding campers. So something like this Opus, for example, or in fact, we owned a Pennine Pathfinder before we owned a caravan. So if you're interested, I'm quite happy to make a vlog about that. So just pop that in the comments below, with or without the word banana in, depending if you want to make one comment or two. But thanks so much for watching. Thanks for your support. Do give us a thumbs up, all helps with the YouTube algorithm, and I would love to have your support. So if you're not subscribed already, please do that. Remember to hit the bell icon, and then you get notified when there's any more videos coming out on the channel. But thanks so much for watching, and I guess we'll see you in the next one. So bye for now. See ya.